Well, welcome to the Baby Playbook podcast. It is great to be with you again for another episode. And this one is a really interesting episode that may only apply to a small pool of people, but will potentially apply to everybody at some point if they do end up having a second or third child. So, this is all about having your second and dealing with the emotions of not just what your firstborn will be thinking when a new baby comes into the mix, when a sibling comes into the mix, and they are no longer just that one child, but also how you're feeling as a parent, whether you're a mum or a dad, with this transition from whether it's 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, and really understanding the toddler years and how the firstborn or secondborn is feeling and processing the new information of getting a baby in the house. So I want to say that with having your first baby, a big part of figuring it out is the newborn stage, and you're learning so many things, and there's so much to get a hold of. And then you finally get through that. But then what you don't realize is that the toddler years are coming, and they are a whole different process, and they're a whole different mix of emotions and understandings. Now, on top of that, when you are dealing with, understanding your toddler and navigating through their new emotions and discoveries, you may become pregnant. And then you have this situation, which I had with my two, where I had a toddler and a baby come into the mix. And there's a lot to explain, there's a lot to figure out, there's a lot of confusion. And so I wanted to share a little bit about this and how you can navigate introducing your toddler to the baby, and also ensuring that we're all feeling loved, supported, and confident in this new stage for the family. So I want to bring in our guest for today, Jenna Nathan. You have quite a backstory, but I first want to say hello. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here.
So you are not only a mum yourself, you have two little girls. So there's that huge understanding there. We all know parents understand parents. But you are an early childhood teacher with a special interest, particularly in toddlers. So you have a master's in early childhood education, which you got from New York City. You also received specialized training in toddler development as well. Now you are obsessed all things toddlers in quite different ways, the unique way they think, they function, they see the world. And parenting a toddler can be quite challenging at times, but you believe what could make it a little bit easier to navigate is just understanding the why. So why they behave the way they do. This really helps parents have a little bit more empathy and patience for their behavior, understand it more, and hence much bigger, happy family. So such an array of background information that you are sharing with us today. So I really appreciate your time. I want to first get into the first question, which is take us into the mind of an older sibling, so a toddler. What are they thinking? A baby's just come home. How are they processing this?
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's very specific to each child and also depending on their age. Like I know you and I both had very small age gaps, so we had very young toddlers when the babies came home. But toddlerhood stretches all the way to sort of 4-year-olds. Some 5-year-olds are still, toddlerish. So there's definitely going to be a mix of emotions and thoughts that they're having. On the one hand, they might be feeling really excited. They're feeding off the excitement of their family and friends. It's something they've been waiting for. It's finally here. So there's a lot of excitement. They also might be really curious and almost confused because a baby brings with it a lot of new routines, new equipment, new vocabulary. And it's a strange thing for them to have a tiny little baby in their house suddenly. Like, what do they do with it? How does it work? Why is it making a noise? Why is it sleeping? Can I play with it? Like it's a lot, and it's new for them. So there might be some, curiosity about the baby, which is often where you see the poking and prodding and trying to pick up the baby and things like that they can't do yet. And then there also might be quite a lot of frustration or sort of anger as well that they might be feeling because it really is a big interruption in their life. As much as they're excited and happy, and parents really see that good side of having a baby, obviously, yet they wanted the baby. But for a toddler, they didn't really ask for the baby, or even if they did, they didn't really know what it means to have a new baby in their house. So there might be a lot of frustration and, yeah, sort of resentment about, why have things changed? I used to be able to play with mummy and daddy whenever I wanted. Now mummy's really busy, or daddy's more busy, or everyone's tired. There's a lot that's going on when a new baby comes into the house. So those are some of the things that they might be feeling or thinking. But it's really, a lot changes very quickly when you bring a new baby home. The baby's changing, the parents are changing, and so the toddler is very quickly getting used to the way things work. And what sometimes happens is that in the beginning, they're super excited and it's new and it's like a new little toy. And then as the weeks creep on, it becomes less shiny and sparkly and new and more like, oh, this baby is sticking around. This is here for good. This is not so new and fun anymore. Now it's actually impacting on my day-to-day life. And then their feelings might change as well. So it's really going to be up and down. But underneath it all, they really just want to know, will my needs be met? Despite all the changes and everything, will my needs be met? Will my need for love and attention and nurturing still be met?
Yeah, well, that brings us into the second question, because this is one fear that mums and dads have, right? Is that their toddler will feel unloved and feel neglected. And you really try to avoid that. I know I panicked about that a little bit as well. I even asked myself the question of, do I have enough love? Which is something all mums say. So first of all, can toddlers feel this way? I think you've just explained that. And how do we help with that? How do we help ensure that they are feeling loved, not neglected, cared for, and watched over?
Yeah. So I think that this is something that mums worry about more than the toddlers worrying about. They're just needing their needs to be met, as I mentioned before. They're not looking at the clock, saying how many hours or minutes are you spending with me versus the baby. So I think that it's more of an issue for mums and dads worrying and having that guilt than it is for the toddler themselves. But I think that there are things that you can do, especially if there are two parents or if you have a broader network of grandparents or aunts and uncles, is, really delegating different roles. And whether it be that the other people are able to look after the baby for a little bit, take the baby for a walk, have the baby sleeping on them for a little bit so you get a nice long stretch. And then at that time, you can spend some quality time with your toddler, really filling up their cup, giving them heaps of attention, putting your phone away, just being 100% there and giving them all of your attention and love for, even if it's half an hour, that will really fill up their cup and boost them a lot. Or if it's the other way around, and you feel like you really need to be with your baby, trust that other people who are, part of their close circle can go and give that toddler beautiful attention and time and do something fun with them, take them to the park and let them sort of just be themselves without having the baby sort of inhibiting things for them. So I think divide and conquer is a great way to do it, if that's possible for you. But also, you don't have to worry. Toddlers will take your attention. Even if you're super busy with your baby, they can't help but be attention grabbers or connection seekers, I like to say. They will make their needs known. They will let you know exactly what they need. And so, it will happen anyways. You'll be giving them lots of attention. But I guess what can be helpful is that if you do plan into your day, okay, when baby's having this next sleep, I'm going to go spend time with my toddler, then they're going to feel less of a need to try and do attention seeking behaviors to get your attention because you're already giving it to them. And the other thing to also remember is that what tends to happen is that you go to the hospital, you have your baby, you come home, you see your toddler, and it's like they're a teenager overnight. Like they look huge. You can't believe what they're capable of. Like the way that you just see them changes completely in those few days or whatever that you're away at the hospital. And so it's very easy to start treating your toddler like they're a bit older than they are or more capable, because they are really capable, and compared to a baby, they can do a lot more. But they often miss out on getting that sort of like babyish attention and nurturing that you would have given them beforehand when they were your baby. So it's also really helpful to keep that in mind. And the same way you're giving your baby those little kisses and squeezes and, cuddles, to really make an effort to do that for your baby as well, giving them the little kiss on the head as you walk past them, tickling them, cuddling them. So really like trying your best to notice those moments where you're expecting too much, and then actually just bringing the expectations down and babying them and giving them that sort of baby love as well can be very helpful.
Well, that's some really
Yeah.
really great tips there, because I think I did make that mistake as well with my firstborn, where not quite a mistake, but that assumption where all of a sudden he was this big boy. But actually, when I think about, age wise and where he was at before Leo arrived, he was still a baby in a sense as well. So it's important to make sure you remind yourself of that. Obviously, with toddlers, you mentioned that there might be some anger and some frustration, and a lot of those feelings kind of mixed within. So how are we able to practice some patience with toddlers when they are perhaps, acting up a little bit or really seeking attention, or start to kind of get quite upset because baby's around and perhaps you have your hands full in that moment, and it's all going AWOL in the moment?
Yeah, for sure. So as I always say, I think that when you can truly, authentically understand what your toddler is going through, naturally that will give you a lot more patience, and sort of tolerance for their behavior. So I'm not sure if you've heard this analogy before, but there's sort of like the girlfriend analogy when it comes to a baby. So if you imagine that your husband or your partner says, you know what, I love you so much that I'm going to go and get another wife, or I'm going to go get a girlfriend, because how great would that be to have two? How amazing. We're having such a good time. We can have a bigger family. I'll get another wife. And so, you're like wondering, what's this going to look like? I'm not sure how I feel about it. The wife comes home, everyone's coming over, bringing presents, wants to meet the new wife, is so excited, giving her lots of attention. Your husband saying, oh, look, you don't even wear these clothes anymore. She can wear these clothes now. She's going to sleep in your old bed, eat your food, all of these things. And I'm going to, I love her so much, just like I love you. And like, you're probably going to feel some feelings about that. You're going to be feeling like, who is this woman? Sure, she looks nice and decent, but this is my domain. This is my husband. This is my family. Everything is mine. So that's really what is happening, essentially, because for your toddler, it really is a bit of a threat having this baby suddenly turn up in their life. So if you have that in your mind, and like this continues, I would say, for a long time, like definitely through that first year at least, that feeling of jealousy and resentment. And so that underpins a lot of the behavior that you're going to be seeing. So like, I'll never forget the one night both of my girls were having a bath together, and my husband came home from work, saw the kids, and he was just like gushing over the baby. He was like, oh my gosh, look at your little legs. You're so cute. Just, really, really like giving her so much attention naturally, as you would. And next thing, my older daughter just scooped up some water and threw it straight in her face, in this tiny baby's face. And it's very easy in that moment to get upset and to say, like, why did you do that? You can't throw water at her, and maybe want to discipline them or something like that. But if you look at what's going on, of course she is feeling upset. Of course she feels the need to do something to the baby because they're getting all this positive attention and she's just sitting there. So it really is about understanding that, and then that will give you a lot more patience and empathy for your toddler. So I think that that's sort of the main thing. But also I think it's about making sure your toddler knows that you understand what they're feeling and it's okay. So oftentimes you'll see them maybe hurting the baby, or any kind of negative behaviors towards the baby. Of course, you're going to keep baby safe as a first move, but then you need to really focus on saying to your toddler, I know it's really hard being a brother, or it's really hard having a baby at home. The baby cries all the time and it's really loud sometimes. Or I know mummy has to feed the baby so many times. Babies need so much milk. Isn't it annoying? So you might feel like you want to do the opposite and be like, isn't the baby great? Don't we love the baby? She's so cute, and sort of like fluff it up to get them on board. but it's really, really comforting for your toddler to hear you say, I know this is hard for you. I know this is a big change. You're getting used to this. You're still learning how to be a sister or a brother, and it's hard. And oftentimes you'll just see then the behaviors disappear because they feel like you get it.
That is such a great way to look at things. That girlfriend analogy is
I
the
know.
most on point analogy I have ever heard in my life. It is literally like that. And I can completely see that point of view coming across. Who is this chick coming into my house? So
Yeah.
that's a really great place to start in terms of trying to build some empathy for what situation your firstborn or secondborn is currently in. Thank you for sharing that. So I want to ask as well, Jenna, what are some mistakes or incorrect assumptions that we tend to kind of fall into? You mentioned one just before, for example, very quickly trying to, I guess, market the baby as this new exciting thing to your toddler when actually they just want to, just want you to agree with them and understand them. So what's these common mistakes that parents tend to make when this big change comes into our toddler's life?
So yeah, you're right. That's definitely one of the main ones is sort of trying to make the toddler come on board with loving the baby and give the baby kisses and that sort of thing. So that's definitely something that's very common. And the other one is, which might be a little bit controversial, but everyone immediately is like, oh, you're the big brother, you're the big sister. And often that will be like the way that everyone announces is like, I'm going to be a big brother or big sister incoming or that sort of thing. But it's really can be hard for them because as we mentioned, like your older child is still very little and they're still a little baby themselves. And so turning on this like title of big brother or big sister can be a lot of pressure for them. And it often comes with higher expectations. Like just in a parent the other day said to me that her family is saying like, you need to get rid of your dummy. You're going to be a big sister. Only babies have dummies. And that's really hard for her toddler, to suddenly be like, why do I have to get rid of my dummy all because the baby's coming? I'm still me. So for me, I like to not use the phrase big brother or big sister. You're just a brother or you're just a sister. And it doesn't come with a title and responsibilities, because that can be really hard and create more bad behavior. The other huge thing that parents often do is make really big changes before the baby comes. So they'll often say, "Oh, the baby's coming soon. I want to toilet train my toddler before so that they're out of nappies by the time the baby comes." Or baby's coming soon. I want to move my toddler into a bed so the baby can have the cot. And that's just really not ideal. Like what I always say is rather than doing that, buy a cheap cot off Marketplace. Get a good mattress, but a cheap cot off Marketplace so that your toddler is in their cot for as long as possible, which is what I advise. But really try not to make any big changes sort of in like the few months before and after the baby comes, because they're going to regress anyways. So there's no point in doing it because they're going to be having a nightmare with sleep and they're going to be having a nightmare with toileting. So rather just wait till everything's more settled. And the last thing I would say is that parents tend to be quite anxious and can kind of overreact in terms of the toddler touching the baby, which can also create a bit of tension. So as soon as like the toddler and baby meet, the toddler's touching a little bit rough and they're like, oh, get your hands off, careful, careful, don't do that, don't do this. And it just sets things up to be a little bit negative, I guess. So yeah, just being a little bit more calm and relaxed about the toddler and baby's interactions, I guess.
I really love all of those tips because they're actually quite easy mistakes to fall into very quickly, right? Because you're so anxious about this little baby and, it being hurt or something happening to it. It can be very easy to start kind of, this might sound bad, but like attack the toddler in defense of the baby. So it's really important to keep that in mind. You touched a little bit on there about the pre-arrival of the baby and how to prepare the toddler and a few of the things that perhaps you shouldn't fall into the trap of doing. What are some things that we can do pre-baby that are a really good way of, getting toddler ready, getting toddler slightly excited, getting the family ready?
Yeah. I think that one of the things to do is also to not tell the toddler about the baby too early, because their concept of time is way off. So for them to wait, 8 months or so for a baby to come is really, really hard. So I would hold off on telling them until you really have to. Obviously, an older toddler will be aware of your body changing and people's comments and things like that. But the later you can tell them, the better, because it's just less time to be anxious for them. Um, and then once you do tell them, a great way for them to learn and prepare is through books. And there's lots of great books. I've got a list on one of my guides of books to prepare your toddler. So that can really help them learn about what to expect about, maybe mummy's going to go to the hospital for a few days, what's going to happen when the baby comes home, how it all works. And you can also actually create a little social story where you take real photos of your house, of the baby's things, of grandma's house, and you go through what's going to actually happen when the baby comes. So mummy and daddy are going to go to the hospital for a few days. You're going to stay at grandma's house. Picture of the hospital, picture of grandma's house. Then they're going to come home. This is where the baby will sleep. Here's a photo of the bassinet, and just kind of explaining how everything will work and going through that story over and over and over, because toddlers love repetition and it helps them learn. And also showing them all of the baby's equipment, because that can be really interesting for them. Like, I know my toddler spent more time in the bouncer than my baby did. But, like showing them the bassinet, the bouncer, the new car seat, all of those things, so that they can explore them and get used to it before the baby comes. So it's not all so new and fresh for them.
Yeah, some really good tips there. And the last thing I really wanted to touch on today is as well, what is something that you would say us as parents, mums and dad, can remind themselves of during this time? I think one of the things, I'm that's really standing out to me about what you said was, for example, I stressed about, oh my gosh, I spent all day with the baby. I didn't spend even an hour with Noah. And Noah doesn't know what an hour is. You know what I mean? Like, remind yourself that time is just a concept that you're grasping and your toddler isn't. So what are some few things that we can keep reminding ourselves during this, challenging time that we're all adjusting?
I think that's just it, is that you might think, oh, I know what I'm doing already because I'm a mum already, but with every new baby that comes, you become a new mum. So just remembering that this is new for everyone. Your baby is learning a lot and adjusting to everything. You are learning a lot and adjusting to everything, and so is your toddler and your partner as well. They're there as well. So just reminding yourself that even though you're already a mum, this is new and this is hard, and that's okay. So this is a new thing, managing a toddler and a baby. And so, of course, it's going to be hard. You can expect all of the craziness and chaos that's going to happen. And just know that just like you adjusted to your first baby and you've gotten through all those, hurdles and everything, the same is going to happen with your baby. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but everything with babies and children is a phase and everything passes. So the good and the bad, they do pass. So if you're having a really hard time and you feel like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Feeding around the clock, not sleeping, got a crazy toddler running around, like, things will settle. So just sort of strap yourself in and just go along for the ride. Which is obviously easier said than done. But basically, I would say expect the chaos, expect that things are not going to be smooth and easy, but it will get better and it will pass for sure. So I think it's just having some compassion for yourself and for your toddler as well, that it's a hard time. And everyone's learning and growing and going to be, getting better through the whole thing.
That is a great way to put it, Jenna. I think I remember those crazy early days, and I would just set the bar really low. Every day the bar was really low, because anything above the bar was a win for me. So
Yeah.
the bar was very low every day. I thought, I'm not going to get anything done in this house. My toddler's probably going to get upset 5 times today, like all that stuff. And then anything that was a little bit better than that felt great. So thank you so much, Jenna. I think you really explain or bring us into the world of a toddler's mind very clearly, very easily. And although whilst it is hard to implement, we can have these strategies behind us. As long as we have the information, we can do our best as parents, and being able to understand them goes a really long way. I'm such a big fan of your work. If you guys would like to keep in touch with Jenna and make sure that you are getting these tips and tricks for all things toddlers, not just toddlers who are about to become siblings, Toddlers by Jenna is the Instagram and your blog online as well. I'll link it in the show notes for you. Now, the other thing that's really exciting, Jenna is offering an amazing giveaway for our episode today. It is a 1-hour consultation, you and her, to chat over, and of course virtually because it's 2024, to chat over any concerns that you may have or any nerves or anxieties around anything to do with toddlers. So it might not be that a baby is coming, but any element of toddlerhood. You are offering that consultation as a win. If you would like to get into the giveaway, all you have to do is go to my website, heynicolinak.co. It's linked in the show notes. Pop your email in and you will be in the draw, hopefully. That is it's just such a great tool. I've done the consultation. It was very helpful. So thank you so much, Jenna, for all your time today.
You're welcome. It was really great chatting. Thanks for having me.